Well, Special Nick of Xbox Era, who does this on a regular basis. He has a lot of sources. He is trusted, at least in my personal opinion. Whether you believe him or you don't, that's up to you. I know Nick. I believe when he's out here, he's not doing it for clicks and likes. He's doing it because he actually got some information that he thought was relevant enough to talk about it during the Xbox Era podcast. So let me just read directly from the posted article, and it says Sony Interactive Entertainment is in preliminary talks to bring Arrowhead Game Studios cooperative third-person shooter Helldivers 2 to Xbox Series X and S based on the latest rumor. Speaking during the latest episode of the Xbox Era podcast, co-host Special Nick mentioned that there are some very early discussions ongoing regarding the possibility of Helldivers 2 being released on Xbox Series X and S. He believes that the current PlayStation boss is a little more open to certain things, hinting at the idea of experimenting with multi-platform console releases beyond just MLB The Show titles and Bungie's future releases. Now, Fuzzy, look, I think it's safe to say that Sony is not broke. I think there are a lot of trolls out there that like to throw this unethical, disingenuous take. They're not broke. They are a billion-dollar company. Does Sony make as much as they used to? Are they trailing behind in electronics and in film? Is PlayStation their breadwinner? 1,000%. The truth of the matter is, though, they had a dozen games as a service in active development. They have canceled 6 of those. And some of those were freaking huge. The Last of Us, Twisted Metal. There were a few other ones that, the military shooter, which I 1,000% believe that was a SOCOM. That is gone. They don't have a lot going for them. And listen, folks, this isn't console war trolling. Let's have an honest conversation. In your opinion, has Sony had a good 2024? Because I don't think that they'd have. I think the one highlight that jumps off the page, at least financially for them, is Helldivers 2. Because yes, is it being supported on PC more than their PlayStation 5? Yes. How much more? I think it's like a 60-40 kind of a thing. But people are still playing the game on PlayStation. And what's interesting is most of those players, and I just look at who's tweeting about it, are Xbox dudes because they enjoy multiplayer games. Now, I bought it. I spent a significant amount of time into it, got a bunch of trophies, played with a bunch of randos, had a freaking blast, and will absolutely double dip to play this on Xbox. It's not console beg. You saw like over the weekend, you guys are just port begging. I mean, really? If I already bought the game, I'm not begging for anything. I could play the game, but I'd rather play it on Xbox. Yeah. Do you honestly believe Hiroki Totoki is a guy that is not in the position to console war? He doesn't give a shit about who's winning the war, whose box is better. He wants to make money. This is a third-party title. They don't own the developer. They have published the game. Great. But this makes a lot of sense. What are your thoughts on Nick's, rumor mill, if you will?
Well, I've always teased Nick as far as like he's a much better PlayStation insider than Xbox insider, and it's not that his track record is flawed or anything like that. It just seems like I would say almost 100% of the stuff he mentions with PlayStation usually comes to be, whether it's like when they have a showcase or a particular game, either being canceled or what have you. He's been pretty much like 100% spot on. Some of the stuff with Xbox, possibly stuff changes behind the scenes. So he's more like, 70 or 80% on a lot of the stuff that, at least that I follow. But when it comes to this information on Helldivers 2, like with Hiroki Totoki taking the reins as far as for PlayStation, he's more about that money. He's more about, having revenue come in as opposed to it just leaving money on the table. Now, does that mean that it comes to Xbox? Not necessarily, but I would say well, not if, but since it's not a first party studio, it shouldn't hurt the brand, and probably the the vocal minority that would complain on the interwebs about it, either one haven't already purchased Helldivers 2, or they've already purchased it, and it's not like they're going to magically sell it, because I'm pretty sure you had to buy that game digitally. I don't think they sold it physically. Could be wrong, but the
No,
majority
I
of the
think you're right. I think you're right. I don't think there was a physical copy of that.
So it's not like they're going to be able to get rid of it. I mean, sure they can uninstall it and in protest, but that would just be silly, or throwing money in the toilet kind of thing. But I don't see how it would harm anything. And if anything, if you have more players that hop into that into the servers and things like that, as long as they have the server capacity, because that was a problem in the beginning. They weren't anticipating as many people to hop into this game, but if they do expand it over to Xbox and they have that server support as far as being able to accommodate more players playing, that's you can't help but wonder, why would you turn away the money? Why would you turn away the potential as far as microtransactions? Because their microtransactions are what I would consider within reason.
Yeah,
Since the game sells since the game sells below 40, let's say you spend 20 like I did on the coins or whatever. I had enough, I guess, points to get and I still have points left over, but I've bought, I would say, at least 6 armors, 6 helmets, 6 capes that are separate from the season list and stuff like that. Yep. And I'm fine with it. Like, the game is fun. It's a little punishing when you play solo until you level up certain things, but it's still fun in the best sense, as far as, especially when you're with friends. It's hilarity, although it can be frustrating if somebody drops the bomb on your head, as opposed to one of the enemy or one of the robots or any of those things type of deal. But yeah, bringing it over to Xbox, I would say it's probably good for at least another 1 million copies, maybe 2, pretty easily. I mean, a good bit of Xbox guys that have access to PC have probably already purchased it, but a lot of those same individuals, myself included, are the type that would also probably want to put it on Xbox if it was made available, just for the fact that maybe for to guarantee, as far as for cross-play purposes and things like that. But it's a PvE game, it's not PvP, but it would bring the community together. And
yeah,
if you can bring the community together and bring in more money at the same time, I don't see what the problem would be. So, I mean, I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, well, why doesn't Xbox put more games?" They've already put a handful of games over there, and it looks like it's been well received as far as for Sea of Thieves. So, who's to say Helldivers 2 wouldn't get the same treatment over here? So, I would say I hope it happens.
I hope it happens as well. I mean, look, Gansley, if we're being fair, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sony PlayStation has not had a very profitable 2024, right? We've seen many of their console exclusives through marketed deals not do very well. But again, just name the list. Rise of the Ronin didn't sell well at all, right? I keep calling it Stellar Yams. Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade.
God damn it!
Is potentially it's gonna sell well. It's an action game. It's being compared to like Devil May Cry, so it looks
very Japanese.
Good. Yeah, no, and that's fine. I love those types of games. So whether it sells well or it doesn't, I'm not exactly sure. But we know that Foam Stars came and went, didn't do anything. Final Fantasy Rebirth, we know how that's struggling. That's been confirmed as to have sold maybe like 2.3 million copies across all the the one platform that it's on, but of all the different regions. That's not very good. But there is something that jumps off the page for Sony that did not expect to hit big, and it did. And that is, of course, Helldivers 2. It was very well done. It is a lot fun to play. I think, like Fuzzy was saying, playing solo is punishing, but if you jump into it, I've gone many missions solo, and it is nerve wracking because unless you have like that you can drop turrets or you can drop, you have a drone that's following over you to take care of some of the stuff, you're gonna get wrecked. But it's fun, and especially when you play with randos,
Mhm.
people were just having fun. I didn't come across any trolls that would, let me die. Every time I got in trouble, someone came running over to help and vice versa. It was a lot of fun. And right now, it's seeing significant success for a multiplayer game on PlayStation 5 as well as on PC. But with this rumor, now I do want to continue reading what he had to say because I do have it in front of me. Nick did clarify that this information does not guarantee that Helldivers 2 will arrive on Xbox Series X and S. All he has heard at this point is that they are, in fact, in preliminary discussions going on in regards to Sony Interactive Entertainment. Now, he goes on to say that the talks could end up failing or falling to piece together, and it may not come to an actual agreement, but it does make a lot of dollars and cents for Sony. Now, again, if you look at some of the deals that they've made to keep games away from Xbox and other platforms to sell PS5s, this is a game that is available on PC. It is available on PS5. It is not a first party studio as of today's
Mhm.
conversation. It is a third party studio that is being published by PlayStation. I think that there is definitely something here. And when you look at Hiroki Totoki trying to obviously get income to help them, be a company, this is a great way to do it. Now, I don't think it happens this year. I really don't think that it was even in the cards. And I don't want to see this game rushed just the same way you don't want to see Fallout 5 rushed. But what are your thoughts on what Nick had to say?
I'm okay. So it fits their MO. First off, I mean they're really smart at picking, what goes where. They're really smart at picking their narratives. This fits their narrative. Like you said, Arrowhead is a uh, second party. It's a second party studio, right? They don't own them, like you said. So seeing this, it's also a multiplayer game that Sony doesn't really associate themselves with often. Their identity is more like this big budget action adventure kind of thing, right? Cinematic experience, all that stuff. Premium feel, whatever. This is not that. This is a very different game than Sony uh gets, like, makes themselves. So I wouldn't be surprised. These games thrive on more fan bases the better. And it's easy money for them. I think it would do well here, just like Sea of Thieves did well over there, like Fuzzy said. Um, it's a shoe in. Like, why not? I'm not even a huge fan of this game, but I could see why it's so big and why it's so popular. And yeah, do whatever you can. If you're Xbox, you're going to Arrowhead. I would think you go to Arrowhead and sweet talk them a little bit. And I'm pretty sure Arrowhead likes where they are right now. And maybe they could play their hand with Sony a little bit and be like, yeah, like, we want our game here. So why not? Why not? I mean, I'm excited. Let's get more people playing Helldivers.
Now, have you had an opportunity to play it or not?
Of course.
Oh,
Of
you
course,
have.
of course,
Okay,
of course.
excellent, excellent, excellent.
I play it with I play it with I played with my brother pretty heavily because my brother and I, we play a lot of multiplayer games together. We've been doing that
Nice.
since the very beginning. I mean, that's our bond. That's our time off. We play together as much as we can, and he's the one that really pushed this game. And when I saw the glowing reviews and stuff like that and the community push, I jumped in because FOMO got me. Damn it, FOMO got me. And then it was just after. I mean, after every work shift, it was, hey, Anthony, let's get on Helldivers, to the point where I actually started to hate it a little bit. But that was just because I'm that type of gamer. If there's not really a point to go past a certain point, if the point is, just for difficulty's sake, and or high score stuff. I don't do that. There has to be a PvP element or a loot element or story element to it. And this is not that. So it's not my type of full throttle game. It's not my food game, basically.
No,
I
I mean
rather
that's
jump
fair.
into a PvP experience in a competitive type of way. If yeah. But anyways, not the point. Great game. And I can't wait for more people to play it.
Yeah, so Coral Guy in the chat is asking if this would be considered a second party. That is correct, Coral Guy. Yes, it would be considered a second party because they don't
Yes.
own the studio, but they did publish the game. I don't know if they made any investments into Arrowhead for the game. I don't know,
They
the
just have a very good
specifics.
partnership with them.
Yes, they
Yeah.
have a good partnership. So it would be considered second party, but that doesn't mean that because it's second party, it can't find its way onto another platform like an Xbox. And I think that we are
Yeah.
starting to see that, well, the world is really changing. And anything you want to add, Gamsley, on to the conversation regarding what Coral Guy is asking?
Well, like I said before, if anything, it helps them kind of avoid the backlash of first party stuff going to other consoles. They could kind of just slip in the fact that, oh my
That's a
god,
good
look,
point.
this is not a
Great point.
PlayStation Studio type thing. Like I said in the beginning, it's like they could lead into the narrative of like, yeah, this is this is not us, this is Arrowhead, and whatever. They could lead with that and not get the backlash like first party Xbox games did.
Yeah, I still think there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of purists that are going to be like, "No, you can't put your peanut butter in my chocolate. I don't
Yeah,
like it." I think
yeah,
you're going to get
maybe.
that.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe. It's possible. I hope they get a little bit of that since, everybody does the same thing to the opposition. So, yeah.
it's funny you mentioned that. While I bring Game Pass Dad in, let me set the stage here. And I say stage because obviously he does stand up comedy, so that's why I use the whole stage thing. We talked on Friday that right now PlayStation Network or PSN has more Xbox games or more Microsoft games in their top 25 than Sony does. Sony doesn't have any single player games there outside of MLB The Show. And that, of course, is multi-plat. They have Destiny 2 that's in there. That's also multi-plat. But they don't have any console single player exclusive games there. And I'm wondering, Game Pass Dad, if Hiroki Totoki, who has been, he's been given the task of writing the ship for PlayStation specifically. He's wearing two hats. He is the money person for Sony Interactive Entertainment, and he has now taken on the leadership role at PlayStation after the removal or retirement, however you want to say it, of Jim Ryan. And I'm sure that he looks over and he says, "Well, our PlayStation Network, our online, the top out of the top 25 games, there are 7 Microsoft games that are making bank. Now, Sony is making money as well because each one of those games, they're getting a 30% kickback. They're getting kickback for 30% on everything that's there: Minecraft, Call of Duty, Sea of Thieves, Grounded, any of the stuff that's selling." They're getting a nice chunk of money. I think there's something to be said about him looking over there and saying, and this is me saying this. I don't know this for sure, but I'm gonna tell you this right now. Xbox gamers love multiplayer games. Helldivers 2 is a freaking phenomenal co-op game, multiplayer game, and it's even more tense when you jump in with randos or you just jump in on a planet by yourself. It is freaking phenomenal. I'm telling you right now, I think that this game, if it was released on Xbox, would be easily in Microsoft's top 10, maybe their top 15. I don't doubt it because, again, Xbox players like multiplayer games. It is a multiplayer box. It has been for years. What are your thoughts on this, Game Pass Dad?
Well, I've been spreading lots of democracy myself on PC. Hence why I've been sneakily triggering my my little Helldivers meme. But I mean, Helldivers 2, like, you can't really deny the fact that it's been like an absolute sensation. Like it's proven for itself by the fact that it completely outperformed like what they had expected in and of themselves with like the amount of servers that they had prepared. Which I mean, there's probably not a rush to necessarily bring it to more platforms because of the fact that um like the servers were clogged up for so long. Like once it started hitting on PC, it blew up in a way that they definitely couldn't have ever imagined. And that just combined with the fact that like I really have been paying a lot of attention to like these games that are hitting at like a $30 to $40 price point, that are more of like a single or double A game, that have quite a bit to offer but like aren't quite as hyped as like their AAA brethren. That like, but in this case, like Helldivers is easily outperformed Rebirth, and like others that kind of
Don't
fell
say
short of their
that.
targets.
Don't say that, damn it. How dare you? Take
But
it
when
back.
it comes to me, it's like I feel like that's an important shift in gaming, because a lot of these companies are starting to realize that yeah, they can throw hundreds of millions of dollars at a game. It doesn't mean that you're going to have the same return on it
Yeah.
that you would expect, because gamers are starting to be a little like, I mean, it's just the nature of the world we live in today. Like people really have to make choices with the money they spend on their media and their entertainment, and there's starting to be some pushback to that $70 price point and the microtransactions and the strategy that you have as a business. And to me, it's a lot easier to swallow like a one-time $40 purchase, and as Fuzzy had pointed to, some very reasonable microtransactions. Like honestly, I wish Halo would pay attention to what Helldivers is doing with microtransactions, because I would buy everything if it was only like $2 to $5 for each piece of armor. I'd be buying up a storm. Like, and I do feel
Yep.
like yes, there is something to be understood, that there are whales who will buy everything still, no matter what price there is. But ethically, like, does it make sense to release $200 worth of armor in Halo every single month? Like, that's something that irks me, and I won't stop like pointing out to 343 in Halo anytime I get a chance to be on the mic. But essentially, I do feel like there is a much more profitable strategy for the long term of being respectful of your customers' wallets and providing them that value over that short-term gain. And Helldivers is knocking it out of the park as of right now. Um, and kind of to what you're saying though as well, with like Sony's getting a lot of money off these Xbox games, like they're collecting 30% off the games in their ecosystem. I don't know if it's a purposeful part of the uh third party strategy Microsoft has that might be a little bit sneaky. But if you start showing Sony how much money there is to bring these games to a secondary platform, and they're seeing this new revenue stream that they have off these Xbox games that they've never had before, they know that there's at least 35 million people in Microsoft's ecosystem. And I mean, at that point, if they feel there's a market there, they might be more than willing to start opening up those new revenue channels, especially for these games that aren't as core to like Sony's strategy. And I feel like as time goes on, it's making more and more sense. Like especially with like just the way games are developed and delivered, there's less like especially if you're doing digital releases, there's just less obstacles to overcome in order to bring these games to different platforms. Like I mean, it's technological. Like I mean, you can't run games on a Nintendo Switch that you can run on like a Series X or a PlayStation 5, but the jump between Sony and PlayStation, or PlayStation and Xbox, sorry, is not as large as it used to be back in the day. And certainly as budgets are getting tighter and gaming companies are trying to find ways to make more money, I do feel like there's more and more talks, and the relationships are becoming closer, because each one has its own strategy. But at the same time, like I feel like Jim Ryan was there to maximize those profits at all costs, and you're with the traditional model to try and push off this move towards the future for as long as possible. But now that there's been this shift, I feel like the third party publishing is much more in conversation, and even paying attention to the model of Game Pass, like you can't really ignore that Microsoft has like locked in $4 billion of revenue every single year. With, if you crunch the numbers, it's like a little bit more precise than that. But even at $10 per subscription, it's like somewhere around $4 billion every single year that they have revenue coming in, 4.2 just based off of like the 35 million numbers. So I feel like as a games as a service, as a game that is like an IP owned and published by Sony, but more of considered a secondary title, and like the fact that it is like a multiplayer games as a service game, it's not as detrimental to their brand to bring it to Xbox. But anyone, and like, because to the everyday consumer, like they're just asking, well, why can't I play this game over here? Because
Right.
most people are going to make their choices as to what console they're going to play on. Would it be great if Microsoft sold 100 billion or 100 million units? Yeah, it'd be great. Like if we could ride the momentum from the old days, but it's never going to be in the same place, and that's why it's opening up. But Sony knows where they're at. They know that they have a strong presence in the console space, and that this isn't really going to deteriorate that much. Like only the most hardcore fans are really going to be upset about this at the end of the day. And these companies don't make these choices based on necessarily just what their hardcore fans think. Like they're making their choices based on what's healthy for their business overall, which part of that is making sure that they're respectful of their fans. And the other part is about making money so they can continue delivering an experience to their fans. So maybe 6 months, a year after release, I could see this being a third party game for sure.